Yo, this is the Scarcity Studios YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. Christopher Guest Moore Jr. has been arrested. He was one of the UK's most wanted. He's been arrested in Malta, part of a joint operation by UK police and Maltese police. It's in relation to the murder of Brian Waters in 2003. He was 44 and Guest is 41. I'm assuming that's their ages at the time. Several other men was convicted of the murder. And recently he was put onto a list. They did an operation. They targeted 96 UK criminals that was living in Spain, because it's very common knowledge that a lot of UK criminals go to Spain to avoid capture. Some places don't have good extradition with the UK, others do. And evidently Maltese authorities worked with the British police. A little bit of the backstory to this, being as nobody's going to know what the hell this story's about, being as it happened in 2003. It happened on Burnt House Farm in Tabley, near Knutsfield. It's in Cheshire, I believe. The victim was whipped, burnt, attacked with a staple gun, hung upside down, beaten, sexually assaulted in a 3-hour ordeal. They actually have, this is the room that they committed this crime in. Brian Waters, rest in peace, was killed in front of his own children. He was killed in front of his own daughter and his own son. In 2014, 2 men were jailed. Brian was meant to, by trade, have been a market trader originally. He moved to this area in Cheshire where he bought or rented this farm called Burnt House Farm, and he set up a cannabis growing there, so a very big setup. They actually smashed the yard to pieces, as you can see. They allege it was over a £20,000 drug debt that Brian had got himself into. It turns out one of the men that was also involved in the murder and convicted was called James Raven. He actually used to work for the BBC, and this is what I found a bit weird, was that he was a researcher for the BBC, being paid £40,000 a year to do surveillance on people for documentaries. After looking into it a bit further, I discovered that these documentaries was like McIntyre, Underworld and stuff like that. So this guy was actually researching and surveillancing criminals, and he was a criminal himself. He was a convicted criminal, and by the sounds of it, the torture, the sadism, the greed, as the judge described it, he potentially might have been doing this in the past. So if you think about it, was this guy getting paid to research potential people he could rob? If you actually think about it, why are you getting criminals to watch people? Like that doesn't make any sense. So when they arrived at this farm, the judge said the attack was pre-planned, although he accepted they did not intend to kill him. No idea how he come to that conclusion. The torture was reckless disregard, and I'll explain why that's so crazy. Waters, sorry, I think I pronounced his name Walters, it's actually Waters, was forced to watch helplessly as his farm helper, Suleiman Raza, was first tortured, beaten and strung by his feet and lowered into a barrel of foul water. Then Waters was beaten with canes and chains, resulting in 24 fractures in his ribcage. A commercial staple gun, so this isn't just the one you get in your teacher's desk at school, this is like an industrial one, used on his body and his head. Molten plastic was poured over his body. I can't even imagine what that was like. He was then strung up by his feet and sexually assaulted with an iron bar. After the trial, in front of his children, by the way, I must reiterate the fact it was in front of his daughter. They definitely specified that his daughter. After the trial, a statement was read on behalf of the family. Natalie, 22, who they were all under police protection. They said he was originally from Stapley in Nantwich, Wrexham. He rented the house and he used it to grow a hydroponic factory. This is what the family have said. The horrific ordeal that took place on June the 19th, 2003 tore our family apart. Only a year later, we come into terms with the loss. Brian was dedicated, caring, loyal and loving. The family was pleased at the verdict, and knowledge was done. 4 men faced charges of murder in connection with it. Raven, BBC researcher, was jailed for life, and Ian Wilson was jailed for 14 years to serve concurrently for GBH. Another man was cleared of all offences. The jury could not reach a verdict for Otis Matthews, 27, from Manchester. He will get a retrial. The operation still didn't have Christopher Guest Moore at this time. He was 27, so that's their current ages then, so he's 41 now. He's been on the run for 16 years, and 2 days after the murder, he fled to Spain. They believe he went to Marbella, but then they lost track of him, and it's only now, 16 years later, he's turned up in a police operation there, and he'd be returned back to the UK shortly. And of course, I'm sure nobody would disagree with the fact of what they did to Brian Waters in front of his children, especially, it was bad. And the state of the place after they ransacked it, they clearly had a motive, which they never fully examined as to why they chose to kill him as opposed to just let him work off the debt. They also showed pictures of Christopher Moore posing in front of cars with a firearm, and just showing the extent of how wanted he was when they put him on the European Most Wanted crime list. And they've also got a picture of James Raven dressed up in a long coat, a Crombie type coat with an axe and a firearm too. So even back in 2003, people were still taking pictures for the internet, even before Instagram was popular. So this story is really sad, and I feel bad for the family, especially the daughter and the son, having to live with knowing that the dad was tortured in this way. But at the same time, these are the risks that people take. Even if he didn't owe the debt, even just having a cannabis grow yard is a risk. People will go to crazy lengths for a lot of money. £20,000 for most people, they probably never see that in their life in one amount. So when people are doing grow yards nowadays, they're extremely paranoid, because nobody gets their grow yard robbed by just anybody. You have to have inside information, because you have to get it at a specific time. So rest in peace to Brian Waters, and I'd love to hear what people have to say on this story. So please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe, and check out the 20-minute documentary part 3 of Maggie Khan, The Secret Tapes, available to stream now only on Scar City Studios.